Hey guys, tonight we begin with something a little darker, a time of royal chambers and rotting flesh. Literally, we're diving into what life was really like as Henry VIII. Forget the Grand King Hollywood sold you. The truth is, you probably wouldn't last a single day in his bloated, festering body. And I'll explain why today. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're hearing this from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating, to me, seeing who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background noise, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Congratulations, you've just been born as Henry Tudor in the year 1491. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, so are the lice in your royal cradle. Your swaddling clothes are rough wool that scratches against your soft baby skin, and the wet nurse who feeds you has teeth like broken stones and breath that smells of sour ale and rotting meat, because everyone's teeth rot here, even in palaces, even when you're destined to be king. Your first breath fills lungs that will wheeze and struggle for 55 years. The air in Greenwich Palace is thick with smoke from countless fires, the smell of unwashed bodies, rotting rushes on the floor that haven't been changed in weeks, and the sweet, sick scent of the herbs they burn to try to cover the stench of living. Your baby eyes open to see wooden beams blackened with soot, tapestries that smell of mold and mice droppings, and the worried face of your wet nurse whose own children probably died of plague or fever or simple hunger, because that's what happened to most children then, even royal ones sometimes. The cradle rocks gently, but the wooden slats press against your tiny spine. Your royal blankets are made of the finest wool, but they still itch because everything itches in 1491. There are no soft cotton sheets, no gentle fabrics against royal baby skin. Even kings start life with scratchy wool and the constant feeling of something crawling on them, because something usually is crawling on them. Fleas, lice, mites. They live in every piece of fabric, every wooden beam, every pile of rushes on every floor. Your baby fingers grasp at nothing in air that tastes of smoke and unwashed bodies, and the sour milk that drips from your wet nurse's breast. She smells like sweat and old blood, and the herbs she chews to try to clean her teeth, but her teeth are still brown and broken because everyone's teeth are brown and broken. She rocks you gently, but her hands are rough from work, because even royal nurses work with their hands, scrubbing and washing and carrying heavy things up narrow stone stairs that echo with every footstep. Days pass in this cradle, weeks, months. You grow from baby to toddler, learning to walk on floors covered with rushes that hide rat droppings and old food scraps, and sometimes small bones from meals eaten days ago. Your first steps are unsteady, not just because you're learning to walk, but because the floor beneath the rushes is uneven stone that's been worn smooth by centuries of feet, but still has gaps and cracks where things fall and rot. Your royal clothes are the finest available, but they're still wool and linen that scratches and chafes against your tender royal skin. The dyes are made from beetles and plants, and they fade and run when wet, so your clothes always smell faintly of the urine and oak gall and iron that were used to fix the colors. Your tiny royal body learns early that comfort is not the absence of discomfort, but the ability to ignore constant small irritation, the itch of fabric, the scratch of seams, the weight of heavy materials that royal children must wear, because light, comfortable clothes don't exist yet. You learn to eat with your fingers because forks haven't been invented yet for eating. Your small royal hands grab at bread that's often hard enough to break teeth, meat that's tough and stringy because animals live hard lives before they die, and vegetables that taste of dirt because they're pulled straight from gardens where human waste has been spread as fertilizer for centuries. The bread tastes like work and smoke and the hands that kneaded it. The meat tastes like fear and blood, and the fields where animals grazed. Everything tastes like survival. Your royal mouth learns to chew food that fights back, gristle that won't break down, bread so hard it cuts your gums, ale that burns your throat because water isn't safe to drink. So even royal children drink ale for breakfast, watered down but still bitter and harsh against young royal tongues. Your baby teeth growing crooked and yellow because everyone's teeth growing crooked and yellow. There are no straight white royal teeth. There are only teeth that hurt less than other teeth. Night comes, early and often in Greenwich Palace. Candles burn with flames that flicker and smoke and fill royal chambers with the smell of burning tallow made from cow fat that smells like death when it burns. The windows are small and covered with oil, cloth that lets in some light, but also lets in rain and wind, and the sounds of the world outside. Dogs barking, horses neighing, people coughing and retching and relieving themselves in the courtyards below, because there are no bathrooms as we know them, just holes in the ground and chamber pots that servants empty when they remember to empty them. Sleep comes on straw mattresses, even in royal chambers. The straw pokes through the thin cloth covering and jabs against royal shoulder blades and royal hip bones all night long. The pillows are stuffed with feathers, but the feathers are still attached to bits of skin and bone that smell like the dead birds they came from. Royal sleep is fitful and interrupted by the scratch of straw, the bite of fleas, the itch of lice, and the sounds of rats scurrying through the walls, gnawing on whatever they can find. Your royal childhood passes in, rooms that echo with emptiness and cold, stone walls that weep moisture in winter and radiate heat like ovens in summer, fireplaces that fill rooms with smoke because chimneys haven't been perfected yet, and the wind often blows smoke back down into royal chambers where young Henry breathes. It deep into royal lungs that will struggle with every breath for 55 years. You learn to read by candlelight that flickers and makes the letters dance on pages made from animal skin that still smells faintly of the sheep or cow or goat it came from. The ink is made from oak galls and iron, and it smells sharp and metallic and leaves stains on royal fingers that don't wash off for days, because soap is made from ash and animal fat, and it's harsh and gritty and doesn't really clean so much as move dirt around. Your royal education happens in cold rooms, where your breath fogs in winter air and your fingers go numb, holding quill pens made from bird feathers that scratch across rough parchment with sounds like fingernails on stone. You learn Latin and French and mathematics, but mostly you learn that learning happens in discomfort. Cold feet in thin royal shoes, aching back from sitting on hard wooden stools, eyes that water from smoke and strain from reading by insufficient light. Your royal body grows tall and strong eating meat and bread and ale, while most people eat thin gruel and turnips, and whatever they can find that won't kill them immediately. But even royal food tastes of preservation, salt and smoke, and spices that burn royal tongues, because spices are used to cover the taste of meat that's starting to go bad, and vegetables that were picked weeks ago and stored in cool, dark places where they slowly rot. Your teenage years pass in chambers that smell of unwashed royal bodies and unwashed royal clothes, and the sweet, sick smell of perfumes made from flowers and herbs that are supposed to cover other smells, but just mix with them to create new smells that are somehow worse than the original smells. Your royal armpits reek with the sharp, sour smell of fear and excitement, and the constant physical work of being alive in 1500. Your royal crotch itches with the rash that comes from wearing wool undergarments that never really get clean, and from wiping with rough cloth or leaves or whatever's available, because toilet paper won't be invented for centuries. You learn to fight with heavy swords that make royal shoulders ache and royal wrists burn with effort. The armor weighs more than most people because it's made from thick steel, hammered into shape by blacksmiths whose arms are like tree trunks from swinging heavy hammers all day, every day. The armor fits poorly because every piece is custom made by eye and experience, and there are no measurements precise enough to make it comfortable. It pinches royal skin and rubs raw spots that weep and bleed and get infected, because infection is just part of being alive then. Your royal wedding to Catherine of Aragon happens in chambers thick with the smell of too many people pressed together. Hundreds of guests who haven't bathed in weeks or months, wearing clothes that haven't been properly cleaned ever. The ceremony is beautiful and grand, but it smells like a barnyard full of nervous animals. Your bride smells of rosewater and herbs, but underneath that, she smells like every other person, sharp and sour and human. Your royal wedding night happens in a bed with sheets that feel rough against royal skin and smell of the lye soap used to wash them, and the bodies that have slept in them before. The mattress is lumpy with straw that's been compressed and clumped by previous royal bodies. The room is cold despite the fire because stone walls soak up heat and hold cold, and there's no way to really warm a royal chamber completely. Your new royal wife shivers against you, and her skin feels cold and rough, because everyone's skin feels cold and rough in 1509. Your coronation as Henry VIII happens on a June day that should be warm, but feels cold because the abbey is made of stone that never really warms up no matter how many people pack inside it. The crown weighs heavy on your royal head and presses against your skull with a rim of metal that will leave marks in your royal scalp for days afterward. The ceremony goes on for hours while you stand in robes that weigh as much as armor and make you sweat rivers that run down your royal back and soak into cloth that will smell of your royal fear and excitement for weeks afterward. Your royal court eats feasts that would feed villages, but the food is still cooked over wood fires that leave everything tasting faintly of smoke. And the meat is still tough because animals live hard lives and die hard deaths, and there's no way to make meat tender except by cooking it for days until it falls apart. The vegetables are overcooked to mush because raw vegetables are believed to cause disease, so everything is boiled until it's soft and grey and tastes like water, and whatever spices were added to try to make it taste like something other than disappointment. Your royal body grows heavier through your 20s and 30s as you eat rich foods and drink strong ale and wine that burns your royal throat and makes your royal head pound the next morning. Your royal stomach swells with the constant intake of heavy bread and fatty meat, and your royal bowels move irregularly, producing royal shit that smells like anyone else's shit, because even kings produce waste that reeks of digestion and decay. Your royal feet develop sores from walking in leather shoes that never fit quite right, and are stuffed with straw or cloth to try to make them comfortable, but they never really are comfortable. Your royal back aches from sleeping on mattresses that sag in the middle and from sitting on thrones that look impressive but feel like sitting on decorated rocks. Your royal neck develops a permanent crick from wearing heavy chains of office and heavy crowns, and from holding your royal head in positions that look regal but feel like torture after a few hours. Your first wife, Catherine, fails to give you the son you need, and her body grows thick and soft, with pregnancies that end in blood and tears, and tiny royal corpses that are buried quickly before they can start to smell. Her royal chambers smell of herbs and blood, and the sharp metallic scent of fear, because every royal pregnancy might end in death for both mother and child, and usually does. She grows quiet and sad, and her royal hands develop lines and calluses from working with needle and thread, making clothes and tapestries, because even queens work with their hands constantly. Your royal court moves from palace to palace because no building can house the smell of hundreds of people living together for more than a few weeks at a time. The rushes on the floors become sodden with spilled ale and dropped food and human waste, and the walls begin to reek of accumulated human smell that no amount of burning herbs can cover. So the court packs up and moves to the next palace, while servants stay behind to shovel out the old rushes and spread new ones and try to air out rooms that smell like the inside of a stable. Your royal body begins to show signs of the syphilis that will slowly eat your royal brain for the rest of your royal life. The sores start small and painless, but they grow larger and deeper and begin to smell like rotting meat that no amount of perfume can cover. Your royal physicians treat them with mercury that makes your royal teeth fall out and your royal hair thin, and your royal hands shake with tremors that will only get worse as the years pass. You fall in love with Anne Boleyn, who smells of youth and ambition, and the musk of a woman who knows she's beautiful, but also knows that beauty fades quickly in the 16th century. Her skin is pale and soft now, but it will grow rough and line, like every woman's skin, because there are no moisturizers or sunscreens or any way to preserve youth except to die young. Her hands are small and white now, but they will grow calloused and stained because even queens' hands work constantly. Your divorce from Catherine tears apart your royal kingdom and your royal soul, but your royal body just continues its slow decay. Your royal legs develop sores that won't heal because your royal blood doesn't flow properly anymore, and small cuts become infected wounds that weep pus and smell like death. Your royal physicians wrap them in cloth soaked in wine and herbs, but the cloth soon smells worse than the wounds because everything smells worse when it's been wrapped in cloth and left to fester. Your marriage to Anne Boleyn happens in secret. Ceremonies that smell of fear and candle wax and the sweat of people doing something they're not sure is legal or holy. Anne's wedding dress is beautiful, but it itches against her skin because beautiful clothes are never comfortable, and her wedding night happens in a bed that smells of previous occupants and the herbs that were scattered in the mattress to try to keep away fleas and mites. Your royal court splits between those who support your marriage and those who think you're damned to hell for divorcing Catherine. The court smells of tension and fear and the sharp scent of people who are afraid to speak their minds. Conversations happen in whispers behind hands that smell of the foods people have eaten, and the ink they've used to write letters, and the sweat of palms that are always damp with nervous moisture. Anne fails to give you a son, just like Catherine failed to give you a son. Her royal womb produces daughters and miscarriages, and your royal rage grows like a tumor inside your royal chest. You can feel it pressing against your royal ribs when you breathe, and taste it bitter and metallic on your royal tongue when you Wake in the morning with royal breath that smells like death and decay. Your royal body continues to expand as you eat, to fill the emptiness inside you that no amount of food can fill. Your royal clothes must be let out again and again until you're wearing garments that could shelter small families. Your royal chair must be reinforced because your royal weight is crushing the wooden frame, and your royal horse must be replaced with larger and larger animals until you're riding war horses that are barely able to carry your royal bulk. Anne Boleyn's head is separated from her royal neck by a sword that makes a sound like chopping wood, except wetter and more final. Her royal blood pools on the scaffold boards and soaks into the wood that will be stained dark forever after. Her royal eyes continue to blink for several seconds after her royal head hits the wooden platform, because death doesn't happen all at once, like in movies, but slowly and messily and with sounds like a butcher shop. Your marriage to Jane Seymour happens while Anne's royal blood is still drying on the scaffold. Jane smells of innocence and fear, and the herbs her servants have rubbed into her skin to try to make her appealing to a king who has just killed his previous wife. Her royal wedding dress is sewn quickly by seamstresses whose fingers are pricked, bloody by needles, and whose eyes water from squinting at tiny stitches by candlelight. Jane's royal pregnancy fills you with hope that tastes like metal in your royal mouth and sits heavy in your royal stomach like a stone. Her royal belly swells, while your royal leg sores weep pus that soaks through bandages and stains your royal stockings with yellow and green discharge that smells sweet and rotten like fruit left too long in the sun. Your royal son, Edward, is born after hours of Jane screaming in royal chambers that echo with the sounds of pain and effort, and the wet sounds of birth that no tapestry can muffle. The royal birth chamber smells of blood and sweat and human waste because birth is messy and painful and animalistic, even for queens. Jane's royal hands grip the birthing stool so hard, her knuckles go white and her fingernails break against the wood. Jane dies of childbed fever 12 days later in royal chambers that smell of infection and impending death, and the herbs that royal physicians burn to try to drive away the evil humours that they believe cause disease. Her royal body burns with fever that makes her sweat rivers onto royal sheets that must be changed constantly, but there are never enough clean sheets, so she lies in dampness that chills her royal skin and makes her shiver even as the fever cooks her royal brain. Your royal grief tastes like ashes and smells like the funeral fires that burn outside the palace windows for days as Jane's royal body is prepared for burial. The embalmers work in chambers that reek of spices and preserving fluids, and the sweet, sick smell of decay that starts immediately when life ends. Your royal tears taste of salt and regret, and the knowledge that you've killed another wife through the simple act of making her your queen. Your royal leg sores grow larger and deeper, and begin to smell so strongly that courtiers hold perfumed handkerchiefs to their noses when they're in your royal presence. The royal physicians try burning the sores with hot irons that sizzle against your royal flesh, and fill royal chambers with the smell of cooking meat and your royal screams. The burns don't heal the sores, but create new wounds that also weep, and smell and attract flies that buzz around your royal legs like tiny vultures. Your marriage to Anne of Cleves lasts 6 months, and smells of political necessity and mutual disappointment. Anne smells of German soap and unfamiliar spices and the honest sweat of a woman who works with her hands and doesn't understand why English courtiers bathe so seldom. Your royal body has grown so large and malodorous that Anne sleeps in separate chambers and breathes through her mouth when she must be in your royal presence. Your marriage to Catherine Howard happens when your royal body is a monument to excess and decay, but your royal mind still burns with desire for young flesh that hasn't yet learned to fear kings who kill their wives. Catherine smells of youth and foolishness, and the musk of a girl who thinks beauty will protect her from the realities of royal marriage. Her royal chambers smell of the rose water she splashes on herself to try to smell like a queen, and the fierce sweat that beads on her royal skin when she realizes what she's married. Catherine's royal head joins Anne Boleyn's in the royal grave. After you discover she isn't the virgin she claimed to be, her royal blood mingles with the blood of previous queens in scaffold boards that are dark with the stains of royal executions. The royal headsman's axe is cleaned with lye soap and rough cloth, but it never really gets clean because royal blood soaks deep into metal and wood and leaves stains that last forever. Your royal marriage to Catherine Parr happens when you're royal. body is so swollen and diseased that you must be carried in a chair because your royal legs can no longer support your royal weight. Catherine smells of intelligence and resignation and the herbal medicines she studies because she knows she's married to a dying king who might kill her before his royal diseases do the job for her. Your royal days are spent in chambers that smell of rotting flesh and herbal medicines and the wine you drink to dull the constant pain of your royal sword. Your royal nights are spent lying in beds that sag under your royal weight, while your royal leg sores weep into royal bandages that must be changed several times each night by servants who try not to gag at the smell of your royal decay. Your royal appetite remains enormous even as your royal body fails. You eat whole roasted birds at single meals and drink wine by the gallon, and your royal stomach swells even larger while your royal legs waste away beneath the infected sores that now cover them from ankle to thigh. Your royal shit is loose and frequent, and smells of undigested food and internal bleeding, and the medications your royal physicians force down your royal throat. Your royal court learns to conduct business in chambers where windows are opened, wide even in winter, to try to dilute the smell of your royal presence. Courtiers speak quickly and leave as soon as possible, and many develop mysterious illnesses that keep them away from court when your royal smell becomes too strong to bear. The bravest courtiers stuff their nostrils with herbs and cloves and try to breathe through their mouths while conducting royal business. Your royal sleep becomes fitful and interrupted by pain that shoots through your royal legs like fire, and by dreams that taste of blood and smell of burning flesh. You wake in royal sheets soaked with sweat and pus and blood, and your royal servants must change your royal bedding several times each night while you lie groaning in royal chairs that creak under your royal weight. Your royal appetite for destruction grows to match your royal appetite for food. You tear down monasteries and execute anyone who questions your royal authority, and your royal hands shake with tremors caused by the mercury treatments for your royal syphilis. Your royal signature becomes illegible because your royal fingers can no longer hold a pen steady, and your royal voice becomes thick and slurred because the syphilis is eating your royal brain. Your royal son Edward grows up in the shadow of your royal decay, watching his royal father transform from a giant king into a monument to disease and excess. He learns to breathe through his mouth when he visits your royal chambers, and to conduct their conversations as quickly as possible before the smell of your royal sores becomes overwhelming. Your royal leg sores develop gangrene that smells like rotting meat left in summer sun and attracts clouds of flies that buzz around your royal body like tiny mourners at a funeral that hasn't happened yet. Your royal physicians try amputating small portions of the infected flesh, but the gangrene spreads faster than they can cut, and your royal legs become landscapes of craters and corrupted flesh that weep continuously. Your royal final days are spent in chambers that smell of approaching death and the herbs that are burned constantly to try to mask the smell of your royal decay. Your royal body has become a prison of rotting flesh, and your royal mind drifts in and out of consciousness that tastes of mercury and smells of the sores that cover your royal skin. Your royal death comes slowly and painfully in royal chambers, where the smell of your royal decay mingles with the smell of burning candles and the prayers of royal chaplains who try to save your royal soul, while your royal body finally gives up its long struggle against disease and excess. Your royal final breath tastes of blood and regret, and escapes from royal lungs that have wheezed and struggled for 55 years. Your royal corpse is so swollen with gases and corruption that your royal coffin must be made larger than any coffin made before, and your royal funeral procession moves slowly because the horses can barely pull the weight of your royal remains. Your royal body is embalmed with spices and herbs, but the smell of your royal decay seeps through the coffin wood and follows your royal funeral procession like an invisible mourner. Your royal grave receives your royal corpse in earth that will be enriched by the decomposition of your royal flesh and the royal diseases that consumed your royal life. Your royal bones will rest in royal soil for centuries, while your royal flesh feeds royal worms, and your royal story becomes royal legend told by people who never smelled the reality of your royal existence. The royal chambers where you lived and died are scrubbed with lye soap and vinegar and fumigated with burning herbs, but they never really lose the smell of your royal presence. Future kings who live in those royal chambers report smelling something foul in the air on quiet nights when the wind is still, and the only sounds are the settling of ancient wood and the scurrying of royal rats through royal walls. Your royal legacy is written in royal blood and royal bones, and royal sores that wept pus for decades, while you ruled with royal hands that shook with mercury tremors, and royal feet that couldn't support your royal weight. Your royal reign ends not with royal glory, but with royal gangrene, and the sweet sick smell of royal flesh returning to royal dust. The royal servants who cleaned your royal sores and changed your royal bandages and emptied your royal chamber pots carry the memory of your royal smell with them for the rest of their lives. They wash their hands again and again, but they can never wash away the memory of touching your royal decay and breathing the air of your royal chambers, where death lived for years before it finally claimed your royal body. Your royal kingdom continues after your royal death, but the royal chambers where you lived remain empty for months, because no one wants to sleep in rooms that still smell of your royal sores and your royal final illness. The royal kitchens continue to cook royal meals, but the royal cooks remember the smell of the food that came back barely touched, because your royal appetite finally failed when your royal body became too diseased to process royal nutrition. Your royal story becomes royal history, but the royal truth of your royal smell and your royal sores and your royal decay is lost, because history remembers royal deeds, but forgets royal diseases and the royal servants who cleaned up after royal. Kings write no royal books about the royal reality of royal life, lived in royal bodies that rot and weep and smell like any other human bodies when disease and excess take their royal toll. The royal physicians who treated your royal sores and prescribed your royal medications and watched your royal body slowly surrender to royal diseases write royal medical texts, but they use Latin words that make royal gangrene sound scholarly, and royal syphilis sound dignified, and royal decay sound like anything other than the slow, wet dissolution of royal flesh that stank like death for years before death finally arrived to claim what was already rotting. Your royal wives who survived your royal reign carry the memory of your royal smell and your royal touch and your royal weight pressing down on royal beds that creaked under the burden of your royal bulk. They remember the taste of your royal breath and the feeling of your royal hands that shook with mercury tremors, and the sound of your royal voice thickened by royal disease and royal rage. The royal tapestries that hung in your royal chambers absorb the smell of your royal presence and hold it in their royal threads for decades afterward until they're finally burned or buried, because no amount of royal washing can remove the royal stench of royal decay that soaked into royal fabric during the years when your royal body slowly rotted while your royal heart still beat. Your royal throne is cleaned and polished, but the royal wood remembers the weight of your royal body, and the royal gold remembers the touch of your royal hands, and the royal velvet remembers the royal sweat that soaked through your royal clothes during the long royal hours when you held royal court, while royal sores wept royal pus into royal bandages that were changed royal hourly. The royal floors where you walked remember the royal weight of your royal footsteps, and the royal stones remember the royal blood that dripped from your royal sores, and the royal rushes remember the royal smell of your royal presence that lingered long after your royal body was carried from royal room to royal room in royal chairs, because your royal legs could no longer bear your royal weight. Your royal children remember the royal smell of your royal chambers, and the royal sound of your royal voice, and the royal sight of your royal body swollen with royal disease and royal excess. They remember royal visits that were kept royal brief, because the royal smell of your royal presence became royal overwhelming, and the royal sound of your royal breathing became royal labored and royal painful to royal hear. The royal horses that carried your royal weight remember the royal burden of your royal body, and the royal smell that rose from your royal sores, even through royal clothes and royal bandages. They remember royal rides that became royal shorter and royal less frequent, until your royal body became too royal heavy and too royal diseased for any royal horse to royal carry. The royal servants who dressed your royal body remember the royal weight of your royal flesh and the royal texture of your royal skin and the royal smell that rose from your royal sores, despite royal perfumes and royal herbs. They remember royal mornings when royal bandages had to be royal changed, and royal clothes had to be royal aired, and royal chambers had to be royal fumigated with royal burning royal herbs. Your royal kingdom remembers your royal reign as a time of royal power and royal glory. But the royal truth of your royal body and your royal smell and your royal decay is royal forgotten, because royal history is royal, written by royal people who never royal, smelled the royal reality of royal life, lived in royal flesh that royal rotted while royal blood still royal flowed. The night comes down on your story like darkness falling on chambers where candles burn with flames that flicker and smoke and cast shadows that dance on walls that remember everything and forget nothing. But here's what makes this story truly insane, and I'll explain the full picture as we go deeper. Henry VIII wasn't just a king who got fat and killed wives. He was a man who literally rewrote reality to satisfy his desires, and the physical cost of that power sits rotting in his body every single day. Your teenage years as Prince Henry are spent learning to joust with lances that weigh 40 pounds and wearing armor that weighs 150 pounds. Your muscles grow thick from swinging practice swords for hours until your arms shake with exhaustion. You learn to read the fear in other men's eyes when they realize they must compete against a prince who will someday have the power to execute them for winning. The jousting accidents start early. Your first serious fall happens at age 18, when your horse stumbles and you crash to the ground with the full weight of armor and momentum. The impact drives your teeth through your bottom lip, and the blood tastes of copper and future pain. Your shoulder separates with a sound like snapping. Wood and the pain shoots down your arm like lightning made of fire. But here's what's fascinating. Your doctors treat the shoulder injury with hot irons pressed directly against your skin to burn away the bad humors they believe cause pain. The smell of your own flesh cooking fills your nostrils and becomes a memory that surfaces every time. You smell roasted meat for the rest of your life. The burns leave scars that pull and itch when it rains, and in England, it always rains. Your first wife, Catherine of Aragon, brings with her a dowry that includes exotic spices from Spain that burn your tongue and make your eyes water, saffron that costs more than gold and tastes like expensive dirt, cinnamon that cuts your mouth like tiny knives. These spices are mixed into everything because they prove wealth, but they also hide the taste of meat that's beginning to spoil and vegetables that have been stored too long in dark cellars where rats leave their dropping. The wedding feast lasts for 7 hours and includes 60 different dishes. But by the 4th hour, your jaw aches from chewing tough meat and your stomach cramps from rich foods your body isn't used to processing. The wine is strong and sweet and leaves purple, stains on your teeth and tongue. Your wedding night happens in a bed surrounded by witnesses who wait outside the door to examine the sheets for proof of consummation and Catherine's virginity. And here's where it gets truly disturbing. The marriage treaty with Spain includes a clause that allows Catherine's parents to demand your death if you fail to consummate the marriage. So your wedding night isn't romance. It's a performance with your life depending on the evidence left behind on white linen sheets that will be inspected by bishops and ambassadors who will decide whether you've successfully claimed your bride. Your coronation as Henry VIII happens during a plague outbreak that kills 3,000 people in London, but the ceremony must proceed because political power doesn't wait for disease to pass. The crowds that cheer your procession are thinned by death, and many of the nobles who attend your coronation are already showing the first signs of plague buboes that swell in their armpits and groins like poisonous fruit. The crown weighs 7 pounds and is made of gold so pure it's soft enough to dent with your fingernails. The ermine trim around your coronation robes comes from 300 stoats that were skinned alive because the fur is softer when the animal dies in terror. You can smell their fear preserved in the fur that touches your neck throughout the ceremony. Your first execution as king happens 3 months after your coronation. When you order the death of Edmund Dudley, your father's tax collector, you watch from a window as the axe falls and Dudley's head bounces twice on the scaffold before rolling into a basket filled with sawdust that soaks up the blood. The crowd cheers, but you notice that several people vomit at the sight and sound of the execution. Here's what nobody tells you about being a king. Every meal becomes a potential assassination attempt. Your food tasters are chosen from among condemned criminals who are promised freedom if they survive 30 days of tasting. Your food. Most don't survive, not because the food is poisoned, but because rich food kills poor stomachs that are used to thin gruel and scraps. Your daily routine includes 2 hours of private prayer in a chapel that smells of incense and your own fear sweat. Because you know that God sees everything, including the growing list of people you've killed and the desires that burn in your mind like fever dream. You kneel on stone floors that leave permanent calluses on your knees, and your private confessions last so long that your confessor's legs fall asleep. The real insanity begins with your obsession for a male heir. Catherine's first pregnancy ends in miscarriage at 7 months, and the baby is born alive but dies within minutes. You hold your son's tiny body in your hands and feel how light he is, like a bird that never learned to fly. His skin is translucent, and you can see the blue veins underneath that carried blood for such a short time. Catherine's second pregnancy produces a daughter who lives, but daughters can't inherit your throne according to the laws you've inherited from your ancestors. Mary grows up knowing that her existence is both a joy and a disappointment to you, and she learns to read the frustration in your eyes every time you look at her and see proof of your failure to produce a son. Your third pregnancy with Catherine ends in another miscarriage, and this time you're in the room when it happens. The blood soaks through the mattress and drips onto the floor with sounds like rain on leaves. Catherine's screams echo through the palace corridors, and your courtiers cross themselves and whisper prayers because royal miscarriages are omens of God's displeasure with kings who have somehow sinned. But here's where the story becomes truly incredible. You begin to believe that your marriage to Catherine is cursed because she was briefly married to your dead brother Arthur before she married you. You convince yourself that you've been living in sin for 18 years and that God is punishing you by denying you sons. This belief will reshape your entire kingdom and split your church and cost thousands of lives. Your obsession with annulling your marriage leads you to Cardinal Wolsey, who promises to convince Pope Clement VII to declare your marriage invalid. Wolsey is so fat that servants must help him mount his horse, and he sweats constantly, even in winter, because his body generates heat like a furnace. When he kneels before you, his knees crack like breaking branches. The annulment negotiations take 7 years and involve bribes paid to cardinals across Europe. You send bags of gold coins that weigh more than small children to Rome, where Pope Clement counts your money while Spanish armies camp outside his walls, threatening to kill him if he grants your annulment. Your marriage becomes a chess game, played with armies and gold, while Catherine grows older, and your chances of legitimate sons grow smaller. Here's what makes this period fascinating. You begin writing love letters to Anne Boleyn in French because English isn't considered sophisticated enough for royal romance. Your French is terrible, and your letters are full of grammatical errors that make you sound like a lovesick schoolboy instead of a powerful king. Anne keeps your letters and shows them to her friends, who laugh at your spelling mistakes. Your leg injury from jousting gets worse during the stress of the annulment proceeding. The wound refuses to heal and begins to smell like rotting fish left in summer heat. Your doctors apply hot poultices made from bread and milk that attract flies and make the smell even worse. You start limping, and the limp becomes permanent as the infection spreads deeper into your leg. The break with Rome happens not because of theology, but because Pope Clement refuses to grant your annulment. You declare yourself supreme head of the Church of England, which means you can grant your own annulment. This decision will cost 30,000 English lives over the next 20 years, as Catholics and Protestants kill each other over differences in how to worship the same God. Your marriage to Anne Boleyn happens twice, first in secret when she's already pregnant, then in public after you've declared your marriage to Catherine invalid. Anne's pregnancy belly is visible beneath her wedding dress during the public ceremony, and rumors spread that you've married a whore who couldn't wait for the wedding night to open her legs. Anne's coronation procession through London draws smaller crowds than expected, because many English people still consider Catherine your legitimate wife. The crowds that do attend are quiet and sullen, and some brave souls shout, "God save Queen Catherine," when your new wife passes in her golden litter. You order the arrest of anyone heard supporting Catherine, and your dungeons begin to fill with people whose only crime was loyalty to your previous wife. Here's where the story gets darker. Anne gives birth to Elizabeth instead of the son you desperately need. You attend the christening, but your disappointment is visible to everyone present. Anne sees the look on your face and knows that her failure to produce a son has put her life in danger. She begins planning immediately for another pregnancy because her survival depends on giving you what Catherine couldn't. Your court becomes divided between those who support Anne and those who secretly remain loyal to Catherine. Conversations happen in whispers, and people learn to watch their words, because supporting the wrong queen can result in execution. Your spies listen at keyholes and read private letters and report conversations that happened in supposedly safe places. Anne's second pregnancy ends in miscarriage when she's 4 months along. The fetus is male, and you stare at what might have been your son floating in a basin of bloody water. The sight burns itself into your memory and surfaces in nightmare, where you hold dead sons who accuse you of killing them through your impatience and rage. Your courtship of Jane Seymour begins while Anne is still alive and still your wife. Jane is pale and quiet and speaks in whispers that force you to lean close to hear her words. She smells of soap and simplicity, and the kind of innocence that makes you feel like a giant corrupted beast in her presence. She never looks directly into your eyes, because direct eye contact with kings is considered presumptuous. And here's what makes Jane's story tragic. She knows exactly what happened to Anne Boleyn, but she convinces herself that she can succeed, where Anne failed, because she's more virtuous and more submissive. She believes that God will reward her obedience with the son you need, not understanding that your problem isn't spiritual but medical. Anne's trial for adultery is staged in Westminster Hall, before judges who have already been told what verdict you expect. The evidence against her is testimony from tortured servants and love letters that expert forgers created in your employ. Anne defends herself with intelligence and dignity, but her eloquence only proves to the judges that she's too clever to be trusted. The French executioner you import to kill Anne costs you £23, which is more than most English people earn in 3 years. He brings his own sword, because English axes are too crude for the delicate work of separating a queen's head from her neck without making a mess that would upset the crowd of nobles forced to witness your justice. Anne's execution happens at 8 in the morning on a scaffold built inside the Tower of London courtyard. She wears a grey dress because black would suggest she's mourning her own death, which would imply she considers the execution unjust. Her final speech praises your wisdom and mercy, but everyone present knows she's speaking words written by your advisors to avoid having her tongue cut out before the sword fall. The sword makes a sound like wind through leaves when it separates Anne's head from her body. Her lips continue moving for several seconds after decapitation, and witnesses debate whether she's trying to finish her final prayer or speak words of forgiveness that no one will ever hear. Her blood soaks into the scaffold wood and leaves, a stain that remains visible for months afterward. Your marriage to Jane Seymour happens 11 days after Anne's execution, in a ceremony so private that only 12 people attend. Jane's wedding dress is white silk, but the fabric was dyed using alum that leaves it smelling faintly of urine. She trembles throughout the ceremony, not from cold, but from the knowledge that her life now depends on her ability to produce the son that got Anne Boleyn killed. Jane's pregnancy is announced 6 months after your wedding, and you order celebrations throughout England that include bonfires, free ale, and public prayers for the son you're certain she carries. Jane spends her pregnancy in bed rest-eating foods designed to produce male children. Red meat, aged cheese, and wine mixed with ground pearls that cost more than ships. Here's what happens next that changes everything. Jane goes into labor on October 9th, 1537, and the labor lasts 3 days and 2 nights. You pace outside her chambers, hearing her screams through thick wooden doors while physicians debate whether to cut the baby out of her body to save the child if she dies in labor. Edward is born alive and healthy, but the birth process tears Jane's body in ways that won't heal properly. She develops childbed fever 4 days after giving birth, and her body burns with infection that makes her skin hot enough to dry wet cloths placed on her forehead. She becomes delirious and calls for her mother, who died 10 years earlier, and begs forgiveness for sins she imagines she's committed. Jane dies on October 24th while holding Edward in her arms. Her final words are instructions to her infant son to obey his father and serve God and England. You're not in the room when she dies, because kings don't watch queens die of diseases they can't prevent or cure. You learn of her death from a servant who kneels and delivers the news in whispers that somehow sound louder than screams. Your grief for Jane is different from your feelings about Catherine and Anne, because Jane gave you what you needed before she died. You order that Jane be buried with the honours due to a queen mother and declare that you'll be buried beside her when your time comes. Her funeral procession includes 1,000 mourners dressed in black cloth that cost more than most people's houses. But here's what makes your story truly insane, and now I can explain the full picture. Your quest for male heirs has cost you 3 wives, divided your kingdom, broken with Rome, and filled your dungeons with people who crossed you. But Edward, the son you killed 3 wives to produce, is weak and sickly, and will die at age 15 without producing heirs of his own. Your 4th marriage to Anne of Cleves is arranged through portraits that flatter her appearance and hide the fact that she speaks no English and comes from a German duchy that smells of sauerkraut and pig farming. When you meet her in person, you're disappointed by her height, her complexion, and her inability to understand your attempts at conversation in broken German that makes you sound like a confused tourist. The marriage to Anne of Cleves is annulled. After 6 months, when you realize that political alliances built on misrepresented portraits are doomed to fail, Anne accepts the annulment gracefully and receives a generous settlement that includes 2 palaces and an annual income larger than most noblemen's estates. She outlives you by 10 years and is remembered as the lucky wife who escaped your marriage. Alive. Your fifth marriage to Catherine Howard happens when you're 49 and she's 19, an age difference that makes court observers whisper about old men who chase young flesh to prove their vitality. Catherine smells of youth and inexperience and the kind of sexual energy that makes your aging body feel temporarily powerful again. But Catherine's past includes sexual relationships that she hides from you during your courtship. Her previous lovers boast about their conquests in taverns where your spies listen and take notes that will eventually cost Catherine her head. Your investigation into her sexual history reveals that she lost her virginity at 13 to her music teacher, a detail that makes you rage like a wounded animal. Catherine's execution is different from Anne Boleyn's because by now you've perfected the process of killing wives who disappoint you. The executioner uses an English axe instead of a French sword, and Catherine's death is messier and more violent because she struggles and must be held down by guards who grip her arms while the blade falls 3 times before her head separates completely from her neck. Your final marriage to Catherine Parr happens when you're 52 and your body has become a monument to excess and disease. Catherine is 31 and has already been widowed twice, which means she understands how to manage dying husbands. She smells of herbal medicines and the sharp intelligence of a woman who has learned that survival depends on anticipating men's needs before they voice them. Catherine Parr serves as your nurse, more than your wife, managing your medications and changing your bandages, and reading to you during long nights when pain prevents sleep. She publishes books about Protestant theology, which makes you suspicious that she might be a heretic who could burn at the stake if she pushes her religious ideas too far in Catholic directions. Your final years are spent in rooms where the windows must remain open, even in winter, because the smell of your infected legs has become unbearable to anyone forced to spend time in your presence. Your courtiers conduct business as quickly as possible, and many develop mysterious illnesses that keep them away from court when your smell becomes too strong to tolerate. The ulcers on your legs now smell so strongly that servants burn incense continuously in your chambers. But the sweet smell of burning herbs mixed with the stench of rotting flesh creates an odor that's somehow worse than either smell alone. Flies circle your legs constantly, and servants must wave fans to keep them away from your wounds while you hold court. Your final joust happens when you're 44 years old and weigh over 300 pounds. Your horse collapses under your weight during the charge, and you fall with such force that your armor dents and traps you beneath the dead animal. It takes 6 men to lift your unconscious body from beneath the horse, and you wake 3 hours later with a head injury that changes your personality permanently. After the jousting accident, your headaches become constant, and your temper grows shorter and more violent. You execute people for offenses that previously would have earned pardons, and your courtiers learn to approach you carefully because your moods shift like weather in a storm. The head injury also affects your speech, making your words slurred and difficult to understand when you're tired or angry. Your daily routine now includes 4 hours of having your leg wounds cleaned and rebandaged by physicians who must breathe through cloth soaked in herbs to avoid vomiting from the smell. The wounds have grown so large that pieces of bone are visible through the rotting flesh, and your physicians debate amputating your legs to save your life. But amputation in 1547 means sawing through bone with handheld tools while you remain conscious because effective anesthesia won't be invented for centuries. Your physicians calculate that you'll die from the shock and blood loss of amputation, so they decide to let the infection spread rather than attempt surgery that will certainly kill you. Your appetite remains enormous, even as your body fails. A typical meal includes an entire roasted swan, 3 chickens, 2 pounds of bread, and enough wine to make most people unconscious. Your stomach has expanded to accommodate this intake, but your digestion has become irregular and painful, producing gas that adds to the unpleasant atmosphere surrounding your physical presence. Your final public appearance happens during Christmas Court in 1546. When you must be carried into the Great Hall in a chair because your legs can no longer support your weight. The courtiers who attend the feast try to hide their shock at your appearance, but children present burst into tears at the sight of your swollen, diseased body. Your death approaches slowly through the winter of 1547 as the infection in your legs spreads throughout your body. Your urine becomes dark and thick with blood and pus, and your bowel movements become irregular and painful. You develop a fever that makes you sweat constantly despite the cold January weather. and your servants must change your bedding several times each day. The final weeks of your life are spent drifting in and out of consciousness, while physicians debate whether to tell you that death is approaching. Your breathing becomes labored and irregular, and the sound fills your chambers with a rattling noise that makes visitors uncomfortable. Catherine Parr sits beside your bed reading prayers in a voice barely louder than whispers. You die at 2 in the morning on January 28, 1547, in a bed that has become soaked with the fluids leaking from your failing body. Your final breath escapes from lungs that have struggled for 55 years, and the silence that follows is broken only by the sound of Catherine Parr's quiet sobbing and the distant bell that announces the death of England's most notorious king. Your corpse is so swollen with gases and corruption that your coffin must be made from oak planks 3 inches thick to contain the smell of your decomposition. The funeral procession moves slowly because your body weighs over 400 pounds and requires 8 pallbearers who must be replaced every few hundred yards because carrying your remains is exhausting work. Your burial happens in St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle, in a vault that's sealed. Immediately after your coffin is lowered to prevent the smell of your decay from escaping into the sacred space above. The stone that marks your grave weighs 2 tons and requires pulleys and 6 horses to position correctly over your final resting place. And here's the final insane truth about Henry VIII. The king who killed wives to produce male heirs and split England from Rome to satisfy his desires is remembered 500 years later, not for his political achievements, but for his failures. His son Edward dies young without heirs. His daughter Mary burns Protestants. His daughter Elizabeth dies childless, ending the Tudor line he killed to preserve. Your story becomes legend, but the legends forget the smell of your rotting legs, and the sound of your labored breathing, and the texture of your diseased flesh. History remembers your power, but forgets your pain, your achievements, but not your failures, your crown, but not the head that wore it through 55 years of struggle against mortality that no amount of royal blood could overcome. The chambers where you lived and died remain empty for months after your death, because no one wants to sleep in rooms that still hold the memory of your smell and your suffering. Eventually, new kings occupy your palaces, but they choose different chambers and leave your rooms to servants and storage, because even royal power cannot completely erase the memory of royal decay. Your legacy lives in the children you killed, wives to produce, in the churches you built and destroyed, in the laws you wrote and the lives you ended. But the truest legacy lives in the stone floors worn smooth by your pacing, in the wooden chairs reinforced to hold your weight, in the windows opened wide to air out the smell of your present. The story ends, as all stories end, in silence and darkness and the slow return of flesh to earth. Your reign is finished, your wives are dead, your kingdom passes to others, and your body feeds the worms that care nothing for crowns or power, or the desperate human need to be remembered as something more than meat and bone and the brief time between birth and inevitable decay.